What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show, the final edition of the 2022 calendar year. With me to ring in the new year of basketball, as always on Fridays, Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy and Mike Gallagher from Established Run. Justin, you look like you got a nice snowboard collection behind you. How are you?
Oh, yeah. This is we're up in the mountains, enjoying the winter weather up here. Had to take a break from LA. It's 60, 70, all year long there. Not complaining, but doesn't quite feel like winter time, like Christmas time when you're out there. So excited to be back on.
Nice. Mike, how are you on this Friday?
Doing good. Got a nice little hike in. Super cloudy. Also feeling very un-Arizona-like with a lot of rain this week. But yeah, definitely wish it was snow. Definitely feeling a little bit of a white Christmas vibes. But let's talk Kobe White with some injuries today.
We will get to Kobe White and the Chicago Bulls. Let's start with the suspension season, not the injury season, but the suspension season. On the Orlando side of things, they'll be without Cole Anthony, Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter Jr., RJ Hampton, and Gary Harris tonight and Mo Wagner. From an injury perspective side, they're still without Jalen Suggs, Chuma Okeke, and Jonathan Isaac. So they're down to 8 players left tonight in a home matchup against Washington. Justin, how do you expect things to shake out for the Magic rotation tonight?
Yeah, Gallagher and I were talking a little bit about this last night. I think Terrence Ross is a guy we penciled in. We sent an available players tweet last night, and that was probably the one that's we're on the fence the most about. But the others should be pretty locked in. And Fultz, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Bol. I think Gallagher was throwing at Admiral Schofield. I think Caleb Houston, Kevon Harris are the other options as well. But as of now, I'm leaning Terrence Ross. And the thing here is you look at a lot of these supporting players in this rotation are very low usage guys. So 3 of the 4 lowest usage rate players among the Magic players this season are playing today, are 3 of the 8 available in Schofield, in Houston, and Kevon Harris. So you have a ton of low usage guys around: Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Markelle Fultz, Bol, and Terrence Ross. So I think the usage today will be very concentrated, and I don't think you really need to overthink this too much. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of Franz up on Caro. Did some queries with the on-off tool, just trying to capture a little bit of what's going on today. And without Suggs, Cole, Wendell, Mo Bamba, and Wagner on the court, Paolo 35% usage rate, Franz 29% usage rate, Markelle Fultz 25% usage rate. So I think those 3 will carry a lot of the usage tonight. Terrence Ross, over the course of his career, has been a very inefficient volume scorer that doesn't do a lot in terms of supporting stats. He'll obviously get a lot of opportunity here, but he just needs to score, and those shots need to fall for him to really deliver value. You're not going to get a lot from rebounds, assists, or stocks from him. So I'm interested, obviously, in Franz Wagner and Banchero and Bol and Markelle Fultz. And then, I think Terrence Ross kind of lags behind a little bit for me out of this group. I think we can get into Schofield too. I want to toss around a little bit and get your guys' thoughts as well.
Yeah, so just want to add just some overall big picture, just the buckets that they're shorthanded on. They are really short on bigs and ball handlers. They have Bol, and that's it for bigs. And then they have Point Franz and obviously Fultz. That's it. So it's really tough to fight those 2 fronts. And I think when I was thinking through it, it makes sense to have Ross at the bench, sub him for Franz, and then come back Franz, point guard Franz. That kind of covers those back minutes. But Schofield staggering from, you have to double stagger or you have to stagger somehow and put Schofield at center for some minutes, or Bol could just play a stupid amount of minutes here. Mm-hmm. So it's just they are. I'm curious to know if they could pick who got suspended where, because it feels like they kind of screwed up on this one. But the headline is there could be so many minutes going to Bol, Franz, Paolo. They could just play so much.
With Schofield, I want to point out he fouls a ton to where I think his minutes are going to be capped just because of that. He's averaged over his career 5 fouls per 36. So I struggle with him to, even if he starts to really get up there with his minutes. I know this is a revenge spot too against the Wizards for him. So, and they're short, but The foul problem is very concerning for me with Schofield, just limiting his upside.
And then one other layer to it too is I'm expecting the Wizards to go big. Les Unseld said they want a 5-game sample of this Gafford Kristaps lineup.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's I guess you could put Powell. Powell's a pretty big dude, so I guess you can get away with it too. But adding more size, and I think that kind of makes some sense. But we'll probably see Powell at the center spot too. So I was going to
say, I think the non-Bull center minutes are going to be Powell or Caleb Houston. I think those would be the two guys. Schofield's a little small for that role. Like he's like 6'6" or something like that. So, all these guys are going to play a lot of minutes because there's only 8 guys. Pending foul trouble. We saw Powell get into foul trouble against Detroit. We've seen Bull earlier in his career really struggle with fouls. So that's the risk here. The guys who generally haven't struggled with fouls as much are Fultz and Wagner. So they seem really, really safe from a floor perspective. But the ceiling on these guys, as Justin alluded to, starts with Paolo, who has just a huge usage rate in these samples without them. We'll see. We'll see how Orlando is able to combat here. But 2-game losing streak for #OurMagic in winnable games. Now they're facing a Wizards team that I think is in a better position than the last 2 teams that they've played relative to where the Magic are.
Where are you at on Ross? What were your thoughts on him initially?
So I think I think Gallagher's idea of them having him be the first sub off the bench for Franz to have Franz covering the backup point guard minutes, I think makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. There really isn't, unless they wanted to have Ross play point guard or Paolo play point guard, essentially, there really isn't another ball handler. And I think if you're asking Paolo to bring the ball up as well, like that's just a whole lot of workload you're asking him for. So I kind of think they're going to start Fultz, Franz, Paolo, I could see. I think Schofield probably makes the most sense, just relative to like he's a low usage kind of gluish guy, and then Bull obviously, and then if you have Caleb Houston as your first kind of backup center for Bull, you'll stagger Bull and Paolo obviously, but you might have some minutes where occasionally, like 2 minutes, where Caleb Houston's on the floor by himself there, and then you have Franz as the backup point guard, stagger him into lineups with, ideally you would kind of I think you'd sub out Ross for Franz, and probably Schofield for Caleb Houston, or I think that would be kind of be the way to go about it. But I mean, look, the main guys are going to have a ton of minutes. The question is, how high can any of these guys go? We haven't seen Bull play really heavy minutes. We haven't seen Markelle Fultz play really heavy minutes. I'm talking like upper 30s. Mm-hmm. We've seen Paolo do that. We've seen Franz do that. My big question for you guys is, like, do you think Markelle and Bull can play like 38, 39, 40? Or do you think this is going to be generally a little bit more spread, where those guys are like 33, 34, and the bench guys are all like mid-20s, because that's how you have to get there?
I landed somewhere in between. I'm like 35, 36. Okay. Because I think Fultz is off any sort of minutes limit. We've seen him hit like 33, 34 before. So I think they're comfortable getting him out there. And what we talked about earlier was they're so short on ball handlers and bigs, right? Where they just need Fultz out there in a desperate way. They have so many low usage complementary wings, forward types, and Kevon Harris, Schofield, and Caleb Houston. You need just guys initiating offense and doing something rather than standing out there in the corner and not doing a whole lot. So I could see Fultz getting up there, and Bull as well.
Yeah. He Fultz topped out at 17 minutes and a half. So I think he gets to 18 and a half, get him to 36. Checking Bull really quick just to kind of get a better idea of what's his workload per half. It's going pretty slow, but probably pretty. He's run long, upper teens a couple of times. So I think Fultz has a little bit higher ceiling than Bull's minutes. Obviously, has a huge. He's at 18 and a half. So they could definitely run him up there. He doesn't have a minutes cap either. It's just been kind of running bad in his career.
All right, let's move to the Pistons side of things.
Oh, he has a 22 minute and a half. He played on November 28th.
I mean, Bobo's played. He's got up to 39. He's like 37, 39 in games this season before. So we've seen like a minute ceiling from him, where I think his minute ceiling is right there with Fultz. I wouldn't think there's much of a difference. So there's similar need in terms of ball handlers, shot creation, offensive creation, and then big men, especially in this matchup against a bigger front court.
All right, let's move to the Detroit side of things. From the suspension side, they'll be without Hamidou Diallo and Killian Hayes tonight. From an injury perspective, they're without Cade Cunningham, obviously, and Isaiah Livers. Marvin Bagley is questionable with a non-COVID related illness. Justin, any read on Marvin Bagley's availability tonight?
I think he's got a good shot. He's been out a couple. This is, I believe, an illness, right, for Bagley. So I think he has a shot to come back. I would think Corey Joseph gets a spot start for Killian Hayes in this one. But we've seen, last game, these minutes out of the bench, and you look at this box score, Alec Burks, 30.5 minutes with Killian ejected. I think he's obviously the biggest beneficiary. Corey Joseph, he's a very low usage start, doesn't do a ton in those spot starts. So Alec Burks is the one of interest. And we saw Saddiq Bey close the game over Isaiah Stewart, and he played some huge stints during this game. We saw the first half. He played the final 18 minutes of the first half, and then he played the final 17 minutes of the second half to add up to 35. So I think he can benefit as well because they're a little shorter. They can slide guys up. I think it's Jaden Ivey, Alec Burks, and then Saddiq Bey for me as the main winners here with Killian and Hamidou sidelined.
Yeah, I think because they started Burks in the second half, maybe because he was cooking. He started 10-10 for the game.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think they just need more offensive creation. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think Kojo's like the favorite, but I think they might just rock Burks. Like, okay, we need offense so bad. It's such a clunky matchup too. So I think this is one.
I think this is one where we kind of maybe see the same thing where Kojo gets the nominal spot start, and if he starts slow and that offense is clunky, then we'll see Alec Burks start the second half in his place. I could see that. But like coaches are stubborn and they like this first, second year thing, and they want to keep guys in that bench role with like Burks. So I would lean Kojo starting just nominally.
Yeah, and just a little more size for like DeMar and Levine. If I'm obviously, Dwayne Casey just loves the third unit elevation to starting. So that's probably his go-to. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he just carries over the Burks thing.
All right, let's get into the injury side of things. We'll go back to that Orlando-Washington game. Bradley Beal is questionable there on the Washington side. So is Taj Gibson. Taj Gibson is slightly meaningful just in the sense that, as Gallagher alluded to, they want to have the sample of Porzingis and Gafford starting next to each other, which brings in some Taj Gibson minutes. Maybe if Taj Gibson wasn't available, maybe they go away from it in the matchup tonight. Would be interesting to see. But Bradley Beal, questionable left hamstring soreness. Any read here, Justin, on Beal's availability tonight?
He has a good shot to go. Ansel called him day-to-day on Wednesday, so there's optimism that he could play as soon as today. That was the Shams report. And he's likely a game-time decision today, but went through a light shoot-around this morning. Actually, went through the motions and went through pregame warm-ups on Wednesday. There was like a report that he was a game-time decision Wednesday, even though it was already ruled out. But I think, I think there's a good shot that he's playing today. Obviously, with Bradley Beal and that hamstring, we've seen him miss a lot of time with that other hamstring as well, and he's missed it. So I'm not 100% confident that he's back, but the reports are optimistic that he has a good chance to return today. Generally with the Magic defense, we love to attack them on the perimeter rather than inside. But today they're so shorthanded with these suspensions that they don't really have much size up front. So if Beal ends up missing, KP and Kuzma could really clean up once again. And I want to highlight Rui Hachimura as well. We saw Rui Hachimura 14 first half minutes on Wednesday, and Rui's usage rate the last 3 games, 25%, 22%, 25%. So Rui's role is really starting to grow a little bit. Obviously, that could be capped a little bit with Beal coming back, but just wanted to highlight him.
Yeah, the other hamstring is huge to note as you hit there because he re-aggravated that hamstring earlier this year, but then this new one, he walked straight to the locker room. It wasn't like bad, he just kind of grabbed at it, but he knew he wasn't coming back. So yeah, I think he's had a good chance to play. He'll probably have a cap on him because having a hamstring that you've hurt twice this season and then another one, like you should be capped. So we've seen Beal play a lot and even a lot early in recovery from injuries. So they probably got to put a little bit of a cap on him there. But yeah, really, just my God, what a flamethrower! Guy scores 30, only takes 13 shots, 1 3-pointer with 8 free throws, just ultimate efficiency.
All right, let's move to Toronto. They're on the second night of a back-to-back here. Fred VanVleet, Precious Achiuwa, names that we're watching. Gallagher, I'll lead with you here on coaching quotes and where everybody is in the Toronto organization these days.
Yeah, I don't think VanVleet's playing. Didn't go through practice, got ruled out early, back spasms. He's had back spasms before. It just seems so unlikely that he would play. On the other side of things, and Precious should be back. I think the back-to-back factor was why they held him out last game. He's going to play I think it was a limited package and short stints, I believe, were the quotes from Nick Nurse. And then we've got hot Nurse season. It's Halloween costume time because Nurse was going off. He says his guys should be tired of playing so poorly.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I'm angry. I'm just playing my best guys. Let me play Pascal Siakam like 44 minutes against the Suns defense that is really struggling. They're like bottom 5 in so many defensive categories this month. So I think Siakam could really cook. Scotty, we saw a lot of ball handling from him yesterday. We'll see if Koloko gets to start again. I think they might just make him a sacrificial lamb against DeAndre Ayton. We saw the Juancho Hernan-Gomez start and then not start the second half. Along with Koloko, they went to Kem Birch against Steven Adams. That made a ton of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they even start Birch here. Because Nurse is he's really fed up with a lot of his players. So, yeah, I think we could see. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Precious starts. You know, put Precious in the Koloko spot. They don't run Koloko long stints anyways. I think that makes sense. Their interior defense has been so bad.
Yeah.
And their transition defense has fallen off because they're missing everything, and they're just teams are running on them. So. Yeah, well, kind of a lot going on here, but headlines here expecting a lot of minutes out of OG Siakam, Barnes, and then I am very uncertain on everyone else.
Yeah, we'll probably see Nurse stick with this bigger lineup, whether it be Koloko, Kem Birch, or Precious. They're playing the Suns, and they've been running out a bigger lineup too with Jock Landale and DeAndre Ayton starting next to each other. So would expect that look. Would not be surprised if it's what Mike said is Kem Birch starting tonight, Precious slotting in, and Koloko just being kicked out of the rotation entirely. So that's what I'm expecting. But yeah, I mean, echo what Mike said. The Raptors are playing very poorly right now, and he's gonna have to rely on his main guys quite a bit. There's a lot of moving parts and uncertainty and very uneven play around those main pieces. So he's gonna have to lean on his main guys for sure.
Yeah, it's been a mess. Boucher did get up to 22 minutes last night, so maybe out of the doghouse, but it's going to be very like hot hand situation with whoever. Gary Trent was the guy who came in flame throwing last night, and that just killed Juancho. So we'll see. The only guys he seems to trust, as you guys alluded to, are Siakam, OG, Barnes, and VanVleet. Everybody else up for grabs. Okay, keeping it moving to DeAndre Hunter on the injury report once again with a questionable tag with that left ankle sprain. Trae Young upgraded to probable today, left calf contusion. So it sounds like we'll get Trae back for this matchup with the Lakers. DeAndre Hunter, a pretty important piece in terms of trying their best to slow down LeBron James. Any read on his availability tonight, Justin?
Yeah, I've been pessimistic on Hunter, but I think he has a decent shot at returning today. He went through shoot around reportedly on Tuesday, and then was at shoot around today as well with Trae. So I think he has a good shot at going, and we should be back to that Trae, DeJounte, Bogdanovich, Collins, Okongwu look. I think we saw Bogdanovich come off the bench on Wednesday just because Trae was out, and they didn't have the ability to stagger Trae and DeJounte and have one of them on the court all times for 48 minutes. So they really needed that extra juice from Bogey in that second unit. So I would expect Bogdanovich to get back in the starting lineup today, and it'd be Trae, DeJounte, Bogdanovich, Collins, and Okongwu.
And I'll add to that. We saw if Hunter's out, it was actually DeJounte Murray who picked up the Durant matchup, and then they put Aaron Holiday on Kyrie. Mm-hmm. So if he's out, I would expect a similar thing. For who DeJounte guarding LeBron. The rest is you don't need to worry about guarding anybody else on the Lakers. So I think DeJounte could play a ton. I think Trae's just gonna hit the ground running. And just want to note, man, I was listening to Nate McMillan's presser, and he just I felt like he was taking like shots at Trae, just like like good defense, good effort, taking care of the ball, like things Trey's kind of bad at. Like he just was high in a loss, very uncharacteristic.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
kind of, maybe you're just going to pick up.
Like Hawks Twitter is kind of talking about. I've heard this on Hawks Twitter. Like, are we a better team without Trae Young? No, you're not a better team without Trae Young, but you're much better defensively. So yeah, I mean,
this is starting to get floated around NBA circles. They're talking about this on the Zach Lowe podcast that we're maybe a half a year away from the Trae Young trade rumors, in terms of him potentially being available. So I think there's a lot of whispers right now about people in the league wondering if it will happen.
I was talking to my buddy the other day, and we were talking about who would you rather build around, Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, and I think the general public would like snap call Trae Young, and I think that's the wrong answer. I think that if you put that out on Twitter, people think it's like a really hot take, but
do it.
I'll just keep it here amongst.
We're trying to integrate more disagreements and hot take stuff. So we all do it.
I know this is a safer space for me.
You get retweeted by a blog, and then it's a whole domino effect.
Yeah, I don't want to get aggregated.
Still no Clint Capella there. We saw Onyeka Okongwu just shove it down our throats with 18 and 13. This Brooklyn team makes me so mad because I finally buy into them, and I play this game from a DFS perspective as if it's going to be a blowout, because I think I'm going to get huge leverage on the field with all the Hawks ownership. And they don't show up defensively at all. Nobody's trying to rebound out there. Okongwu's just killing them on the boards. It was so tilting. The Okongwu experience continues to be a total roller coaster from game to game. What are the expectations tonight against the Lakers front court?
I mean, it's a good
play. Pretty good. Good.
I mean, it's a good spot, which means he'll probably bust. So that's kind of how it works, right? You said it before. Like Chalk Okongwu is a disaster, and when you finally sleep on it a little bit and fade, he goes off. So. This one was kind of painful. I had the TJ Warren overs as well. He was like mid-low 20s usage in 3 games, and he got 26 minutes, which I love. And then just did absolutely nothing. I think
they're running offense through Yuta Watanabe. I was like, I know it's time to shut it down.
Yep,
it's time to shut it down. They're rolling Yuta off curls. We're done here.
Yep, exactly.
Oh man.
All right. If
Onyeka
Okongwu was like blackjack and you get dealt 11, you're like, oh, great spot. Like, no, you're not doubling down on that spot.
Exactly. All right. On the other side, LeBron questionable tag as always. Reeves and Dennis Schroeder probable. Any concern at all for LeBron with that ankle soreness tonight?
I was actually surprised he played Wednesday. So if you played Wednesday through that Q tag on the second leg of back-to-back, I feel pretty decent that he's going to play tonight. I didn't hear
no birthday hangover off night in Atlanta. I'm just
Magic City, with
lemon pepper wings, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel pretty good. I mean, if you played 34 minutes, on Wednesday, and I thought he had a good shot at sitting Wednesday because he was sitting most back-to-backs to that point. Obviously I think play Miami was a part of why he played, but I think he goes tonight. We've seen these Q tags with the Lakers repeatedly where, a little less credibility when they slap a Q tag on someone. But with this Lakers team, way too much volume right now outside of LeBron and Russ with these supporting players. They're just so up and down. Thomas Bryant, a guy we've wanted to look at without AD, but 23 and 19 minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. His minutes have been all over the place. You have Wenyen Gabriel back in the mix. You have JTA back in the mix, adding a little bit of volatility variance to his minutes. Interesting matchup against the Hawks that we always like to target the Hawks in that front court at that center spot. But I mean, not really interested in, I don't know, Beverly, Schroeder, Reeves, Lonnie too much on the Lakers side here.
Yeah, I think Westbrook's interesting. We saw a Sadiq Bey-ish rotation from him in the second half before the game kind of got out of hand. And comments after the game that were very Westbrook code kind of comments talking about, we need more downhill. And Westbrook, he was driving and kicking like crazy. We had an under on him, and we were sweating that one. Somehow managed to get it. But I think Westbrook
he missed 2 free throws when we were at under 15 and a half, which was just like...
Thank God. 2 open threes We just sun ran to get that one.
Yeah.
But I think Westbrook's got a little bit of a ceiling here in a matchup. I think that he could benefit, especially if he's not going to see a lot of primary defense. I don't think he'll see too much of DeJounte, and I don't think DeJounte's like oh my god, I'm not playing against him like a Jade McDaniels kind of a guy.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on Russ's minutes. We've seen a bit of a range from him just in the last couple games where he goes from like 24 one game to like 32. I think he played on Wednesday. So, if he's on the higher end of that like 29-32, which he's been the last 2 games, then definite ceiling. He's playing really well. Had a pretty poor shooting game, I believe, last game, but the counting stats were still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the Kobe White talk, which is what Gallagher wanted most, a white Christmas, a white New Year's. Kobe White is listed as questionable. Derrick Jones Jr. questionable. Alex Caruso gets the probable tag along with Javonte Green and Patrick Williams. So the Bulls' depth, which has been challenged the last few games, is starting to come back. Justin, do you have any read on Kobe White or Derrick Jones Jr. availability tonight?
Nothing specific on there. We got Patrick Williams upgrade from questionable, which is really promising. Caruso has been very consistent saying he plans to play. So I think he's probably at 95% to go. Full practice yesterday. Reiterated this morning that the plan is still for him to play. He's over that concussion, just kind of dealing a little bit with that shoulder. But they should have some good depth today. And obviously Caruso being back, we're assuming he slide back in that starting spot and Ayo goes back to the bench. That's my assumption. What do you guys think?
I think he starts. Yeah, you mentioned he did like a full game practice with the low minute guys. So he's ramping up, ready to go. I would expect, pretty close to a normal role. He's cleared this concussion thing for a little bit. It was a mild concussion, he said. So I would expect him to start and, probably maybe pick up some Boyan. We'll see. But I think he should be a full go. And I don't have much of a read besides the Kobe stuff like you do. Think
might be on mute.
Yep, muted myself. It'll be interesting to see if they give him the Boyan assignment or Ivy. I could see either way. Mm-hmm. We saw it. I was surprised. Orlando defended Boyan with Markelle Fultz. And Fultz is kind of like a guy with very active hands. So Caruso very similar in that regard. Patrick Williams is probably their second best defender in the starting lineup. So having Patrick Williams on Boyan and Caruso on Ivy might really shut things down for Detroit. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's how I would lean. That they go those that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. On to New Orleans. Herb Jones listed questionable. Otherwise, still no Brandon Ingram. Larry Nance is doubtful here. So, we've seen them really thin of late without Herb Jones. You've seen Trey Murphy and Najee Marshall really be the primary beneficiaries there. At times, Dyson Daniels, at times, Jose Alvarado, but really primarily those two guys. Any read on Herb Jones' availability tonight with this return to competition reconditioning tag?
LeBron is in on the newest injury report. Lonnie Walker is questionable. Marvin Bagley is in. I think those are the only 3 changes on the last injury report.
All right.
Nice.
Go ahead, Gallagher. With
Herb. I think he's got a pretty good chance to play. We saw it looked like he was going to play last game, or I thought it was a little unlikely. This is pretty standard. He had the protocol tag questionable, downgrade out, reconditioning tag. Usually means he's back. Should expect him to start. I'm not sure on his conditioning. I haven't heard too much there. I don't know if you've seen anything there, fan. But I expect him to go ahead.
He's missed 2 games in a week. Like it's not like he's been in the protocols for extended period of time. So I was expecting like a light minutes limit, but nothing too significant to where I would still expect him to start, not play full minutes, maybe like 2 to 4 minutes less than usual is my expectation.
Yeah, he just hasn't been playing well either. So I think that's something that could affect him. But yeah, Valanciunas could have a much higher minute ceiling. Yeah, up for debate whether it's going to be Jackson Hayes as the backup 5. We've seen Jackson Hayes pick up two games ago without Nance. He just took almost all the non-JV center minutes. And just got to talk about Zion, calling Spider 2Y banana and going full football mode against the Wolves with D'Angelo Russell's comments. One of my favorite stats of the season, 31 points on 27 drives, just full on Mike Allstotting the Wolves there. It was,
Was it
so
D'Lo that
good. What
said
a
he's
great game.
D'Lo's saying he's just playing a different sport right now? Love that quote.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, yep.
All right, keeping with the questionable tags, we will get to Philadelphia later on. I would note on the Hayes versus Hernan Gomez thing, I think you're going to see both of them. So what I think is going to happen is I think Hayes is going to pick up the non-Embiid backup center minutes, but I think that substitution pattern, unless they choose to change Joval's substitution pattern, might not match up all the time. And I don't think they'd like Hayes on Embiid as much. So you might see Hernan Gomez get like 4 minutes or something like that, where it's just kind of eating time against Embiid with a bigger body. That's kind of my lean on that. Not super impactful for DFS stuff. Let's go to Denver, where Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Bruce Brown are all questionable. They all missed the second end of the back-to-back last game against the Kings, a game that the Nugs really let get away from themselves in that fourth quarter, largely because they couldn't stop anybody. They just could not get a stop. De'Aaron Fox was getting wherever he wanted to go. They were really feeling the loss of both Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown from that perspective. Tonight, questionable tags. Any leans here, Justin, on the 3 Nuggets?
I haven't heard anything on Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown. I think I would, if I had to guess, I would lean a little bit closer to doubtful because I haven't heard any encouraging news that would make me think that they're closer than they were on Wednesday. With Jamal, we've been in the spot before. I would expect him back. We expected him to sit the second leg of the back-to-back on Wednesday. We put that graphic out, said him and Clay were likely rest candidates, and he rested. So, I mean, he played a lot of minutes the night before. That Christmas game, that crazy Christmas game went to overtime. He played a ton of minutes there. So, I think this is more precautionary Q tag for Jamal. And we've seen these precautionary Q tags for him pop up when he's played through them on non-back-to-back. So, would think Jamal's back, and Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown are very iffy for me. And we've seen Zeke Naji, 2 starts already for Aaron Gordon, both ends of the spectrum. One game played poorly, lost to Vlatko Čančar, only played 15 minutes. Last game played really well, played 31 minutes. So we're probably going to see something in between of those 2 extremes today if Aaron Gordon misses again. And then we finally saw a big breakout game from Bones Highland, who's really been mired in a brutal shooting slump. He's had 1 positive plus-minus game over his last 9 games. He's been just killing the second unit in general. I think his efficiency differential, I saw a graphic posted this morning, is negative 23.4 efficiency differential this season, which is really, really bad, obviously. So if Bruce Brown is out again and but Jamal's starting, then he'll see more minutes than the teens he's been playing, but not that ceiling that we saw from him on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I agree Murray's the most likely. I would lean Gordon more likely than Brown. Brown rolled his ankle pretty good. Went to the locker room, needed a little bit of help. So I think he's pretty unlikely to play. Aaron Gordon woke up with soreness. All of a sudden he got that midday Q tag. And did we ever find out why? I still think he got hurt on that dunk.
I mean, that's the only one. It's a strained shoulder on his dunking shoulder.
Yeah. So, man, what a highlight. But they probably cost them a loss. I mean, if they had Aaron Gordon, they probably would have won against in that second game. But I think Gordon's back. Waking up with soreness a couple days later, you feel like it would probably go away in a few days. So I think he should be in there.
On the other side, the Miami Heat, as always, lots of questionable tags. Lots of probable tags. Everybody gets a listing. Basically, it's like Oprah. Jimmy Butler's probable. Udonis
except
Haslem,
Kyle Lowry, by the way, with the freaking
except the guys who miss. Udonis Haslem questionable. Nikola Jovic.
G League.
Yeah, I'm very confused by this. He was listed probable, then he was sent to the G League. So I don't understand what's going on there. Caleb Martin questionable. Gabe Vincent probable. Justin, who the hell's playing for the Heat tonight?
Yeah, I think they'll have a pretty full unit. Caleb's concerning though, the game time decision now, and he was listed with a sprained ankle and now dealing with a strained quad on top of that. So we know the Heat starters. It'll be Lowry, Jimmy, Hero, and Bam. And Caleb will start if he's able to go. And if he's not, then we'd see Max Strus slide in there. The only movement here is Orlando Robinson, the clear backup center today, with Jovic in the G League and Dwayne Dedmon in health and safety protocols. I think Dedmon's probably going to miss a couple of games. He didn't even travel with the Heat on the road trip. So should see Orlando Robinson. He's been playing well enough to lock up that backup center role. So yeah, fuller unit today for Miami. They'll have most of their guys.
We think they will, but
yeah, Lowry was super surprising, ruled out on Wednesday.
Dude, they better find them for that, man. That was just a complete joke. Two things. One, Orlando Robinson, most improved player since Summer League, according to Spoelstra. And two, we are not getting the Nikola Jokic versus Nikola Jovic matchup today. Sad scene for the day after we get 2 Jalen Williams starting. It would have been all-time back-to-back.
And we had 3 Williams on the court on the same team at once. Kendrick was on there. They played some Kendrick, Jalen.
Was Mark
Williams as well?
Yeah. Four Williams on the floor.
Yep.
Just incredible work by OKC.
What a come up for the Williams name, just 4 in the NBA.
Strong representation last night. Okay, on to Trey Lyles, questionable tag for Sacramento. He's been playing kind of an integral role with Domantas Sabonis missed the 2 games ago against the Nuggets. The role not as big, obviously, when Sabonis is available. The matchup with Utah, one that does not allow a lot of 3-point shooting, although Trey Lyles has diversified his game a little bit more. Questionable tag tonight. Any lean there, Justin?
He went through shoot around this morning, so it looks promising. I will note that, Domas came back on Wednesday. Trey still played 24 and a half minutes off the bench. And a lot of that was at the expense of Keegan Murray. Murray played just 20 and a half minutes. That's the fewest minutes he's played in a game in over 2 months. We saw Harrison Barnes, I think, got his minutes cut a little as well. So they're just playing like the hot hand who is playing well. Like Casey Apala played a good amount, which is a little surprising. But Trey Lyles looks like he's gonna play tonight, and just because he participated in shoot around, he's kind of emerged. They have like 18 backup bigs that they're trying to sort through, and Lyles is kind of emerging from that pack as one that that coaching staff is starting to trust a little bit.
Yeah, Jordy Fernandez filling in for Mike Brown, and my God, I have not heard a coach just go to just glowingly on Davion Mitchell. He was just like not even asked about him. He was just talking about, oh, he's a superhero and this, that. So Davion really did impact the game, though. We saw a lot of overlap there. So I think if Trey doesn't go, which it sounds like he's going to, wouldn't be surprised if they play a little bit smaller in certain spots. Obviously, you can't do it too much, especially against Utah. But this is a game to jam, man. I love this game. 2 really bad defenses, 2 rim funnel defenses, 2 of the worst teams around the basket, 2 teams that limit 3-pointers. Should be pretty fun. But Fox and Sabonis, man, just Sabonis didn't look hurt at all. Like he was hit on the hand a couple times. Yeah, he wasn't even like, he got fouled on his hand, wasn't even phased.
That's just used to getting hit in the face like 4 times a game too. So like contact is like nothing for that dude. That dude's super tough. Say if Trey Lyles ends up missing, obviously that's like a good amount of minutes, and we'll see Keegan Murray not play 20 and a half minutes again. I highly doubt that will happen. But where you guys see those minutes mostly going if Lyles ends up missing?
I'm probably go KZ. I don't think maybe Metu. I wouldn't feel very strongly that anybody.
Yeah, I could see the matchup. Well, I think Barnes and Murray immediately get into the. Barnes gets back into his usual low 30s for sure. Yeah. Murray probably gets closer to 30, and that's like half of the Trey Lyles minutes there. Yeah. The other half probably go to Akpala, but then a little bit of Davion as well. You also saw Herter's minutes cut down by foul trouble, so you could almost give Trey Lyles minutes just to Herter, Murray, and Barnes, and kind of wrap it there, and have KZ play about what he did last game, which is still picking up from
it's a lot
where he would normally been
for sure.
Okay, slow-mo. Gallagher, I'll let you lead slow-mo back spasms. I want to note that I got this prediction right on Wednesday that Kyle Anderson's back was going to act up in advance of facing off against Zion Williamson. Will it be acting up tonight in advance of facing Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I really should have. Man, you should have told me that. I definitely would have gone Zion Williamson as the injury descriptor for Kyle Anderson.
Let's go. Yeah.
I mean, you can do it tonight if he sits tonight. It's
Giannis. You can do Giannis.
I mean, look, man. If I've got back spasms and I look at the schedule and I'm going Zion and Giannis, I'm like, well, these are acting up. I'm sorry.
Oh, my back. Gosh.
I feel back is a problem. Yeah. So Gallagher, what's your read on your Wolves and Kyle Anderson tonight?
Yeah, what's the wrestler who sits in the wheelchair and pops out? That's basically
Yeah,
Kyle
Kevin
Anderson out
Nash.
this week. Yeah, Kevin Nash. Yeah. Don't have a read. Obviously, this is the thing he aggravated. We talked about it. I think December 18th, something in the late teens. And he's been out since. So I think he could be back. Have no read on it at all. Matchup's interesting though, right? Like I talked a little bit about hot takey starting Naz Reid just to give him like a really high minutes floor. They're probably not going to do that, but this would be a spot to do it.
The dual big look has been so bad for them generally with like Naz.
It's been better though.
It's been better lately, but just the bigger sample, it's just not. Hasn't been working. As a whole. But I get it. Like you want to play Naz Reid more. He's been playing really well just as of late. But yeah, I mean, I'm aside from the Giannis factor, maybe complicating and adding a little bit of additional soreness and a pinch out of the blue for Kyle Anderson's back. I think he has a decent shot at playing. He's like closer. He's been ramping up. I think they've been just really cautious. Then we talked about it last Friday about the Finch quotes and how concerning it was. So yeah, I think he has a decent shot at playing today.
They could use an extra.
He was at shoot around today, but yeah, probably still game time decision.
They could use an extra ball handler too to open up the floor a little bit too. So I think they would definitely start him. Possible minutes cap though.
Yeah.
You guys think they could get 5 first-round picks for Naz Reid? I mean, just spitballing ideas on for Minnesota here to get back.
I cannot believe how bad Rudy Gobert has been, man. Like, oh god, he's so bad. It's both ends. His defense has been bad, man.
The best stat I've seen floating around Twitter in the last week that has been maybe the best stat of the year is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has more blocks than Rudy Gobert this season.
No way. Holy shit. That's wild.
Did he pass?
I know SGA leads guards, I think, in blocks per game. That's crazy to me. Wow.
I did not vet that, but I just knowing, but having adjusted their block rates over and over versus the props market, I think it's right, but I did not vet that. But I saw that floating around. And I was like, oh yeah, it's gotta be right.
I think it might be like total because
total.
Because blocks per game, it's definitely not.
Yeah. No. Gobert's at like 1.2 blocks per game, and I think Shai's at like 1. But yeah, so it might be total blocks. But yeah. Okay, let's get to some of the big returns, and there is a really big one. Actually, there's one questionable tag before we have to get to that. Yusuf Nurkic was downgraded from probable to questionable. Midday downgrades, always a concern. Nurk, man, the calf soreness has been an issue. Issue. Is that the deal now?
This is a midday downgrade due to an illness, not the calf.
Okay,
so,
good to know. Good to
know.
Yeah.
That's something we did. I put that tweet out calf initially, but I reread it and it said illness instead. So that's even worse for me.
Yeah.
He's dealing with the illness on top of the calf. So we know the track record of this, the early midday downgrade is just generally not a good sign. So we'll lean him trending towards doubtful at this point. And we saw he just recently missed a game. And Drew Eubanks got the start, played 32 minutes, so would expect that. And if Nurk misses, they could be down to like 8 available players plus their two ways. And it doesn't sound like Chauncey really wants to play John Butler or Baji just yet. It sounds like if one was going to play, according to Sean Highkin, it would be John Butler. But I think it'd be pretty tight, like 8-man, if Nurkic ends up missing, and that bench would be Trenton Watford, Shannon Sharp, and Jabari Walker. So could see pretty big minutes for these starters in this one with pretty short.
No Greg Brown too, so there could be. We've been usually pretty cautious on Eubanks' minutes, but I mean this is an opportunity for him to get up there, and you kind of hinted at it too. There was a quote from Billups saying like, "Man, these young guys aren't ready for minutes," because we saw Shane Sharp's minutes get cut as well. So there could be like so many. I almost cover boy Dame here against DiVincenzo. I think Dame could really pop off here, and not quite hometown narrative in San Francisco now, but I do like the spot for Dame a lot.
Yeah, I've been looking at some overs, and I fired some overs on just because I think they're going to be short. And I'm trying to get ahead of this Nurkic news, and I think he's kind of trending doubtful. So we talked about this I think last week on Friday with the Chicago Bulls and how they were like going to play like an 8-man probably without Dallin Terry and with who is it? Caruso out. So we can see a similar situation here where we see like a really concentrated 8-man rotation, big minutes for the starters.
Yeah,
they've been off for a little bit and no back-to-back.
It's certainly a spot also where they're the guy that they're really, really missing here when you talk about Nurkic being out is Justice Winslow, because a lot of times they're really willing to play Justice Winslow as kind of like a fifth starter and play these smaller ball lineups. And those would work really well against some of the Dre at center lineups for Golden State. Not having that and having to have your backup center essentially be Trendon Watford is just a difficult situation for them. So yeah, things could be really, really tight here. Eubanks minutes could get up. I don't love the matchup for Eubanks, but the minutes could certainly be there as a DFS value late. Okay. Probable tags in returns. I want to talk Tyrese Maxey coming back for Philadelphia. His list is probable today. I think it's really interesting. Philadelphia is playing New Orleans. That is a matchup that is probably going to demand more PJ Tucker going up against Zion Williamson than some of the smaller lineups we've seen from Philadelphia during the course of the season. But I'm really interested to see what they do with Maxey. I know people have speculated, does Maxey come off the bench because Melton's played so well, and Maxey was, prior to being in the starting lineup and thriving there, he was a great bench player. Shake Milton's played incredibly well. Has he earned enough playing time? Where do the minutes come from? I think long-term they're coming from PJ Tucker, but I don't think they are tonight against Zion Williamson. And I think what will eventually happen is either PJ Tucker is only a spot starter against these Giannis, Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant, these types of big four scoring options that they need more defense on. Or I think it will be a nominal starting position for PJ Tucker, and they'll get more of Melton on the floor. I don't think they want to cut down Tyrese's minutes. I think they have the ability to work him in slowly right now, and especially in this matchup. But I think long-term, they need to get Melton on the floor. He's been a huge reason that they've played so much better of late. We have long been DeAnthony Melton stands, so it's been a good year for the DeAnthony Melton hive, my guy.
Your guy.
What are your thoughts, Justin, on how the rotation settles out and what it looks like tonight with Tyrese Maxey back?
Yeah, so Doc was asked about this last week about what Maxey's role would be upon his return, and he said he'd be eased in initially, and he wouldn't rule him coming off the bench initially either. So that makes me think, and we've seen this in other spots. We talked about this like Wendell in Orlando and some other spots where coaches will bring guys off the bench initially just to keep their minutes in check and on a cap. So would not surprise me at all if Maxey came off the bench today and Melton started and Maxey was pretty limited in terms of minutes. I think they have the depth right now with how well Melton and Shake Milton are playing to where they don't have to really push Maxey hard initially, right? And I think you hit it on the head where we'll see a little bit more of this Melton, Maxey, Harden trio combination of all three on the floor at once, and Tobias slides over to the 4. I think that's a really interesting look, and Melton deserves to be on the court as much as possible. And we've seen this starting lineup, obviously with that 4, with Melton as the 5th, plus 11 net rating this season, and with Tyrese Maxey as the 5th, plus 5 net rating. So they've been better generally. It's a smaller sample and it's early, but they've been a little better. They're more balanced, especially defensively with
that's really the big thing. Like Tyrese Maxey is a hell of a player, but he's his effects are muted by playing alongside James Harden and Joel Embiid, who are offenses unto themselves. And so the things Maxey does really, really well are just a little bit less important in those stints. And I'm really interested to see, because I mean, they could do this a lot of different ways. They could have Maxey just lead a second unit and just kind of microwave scorer in that role. But I think it's a really fascinating thing for both DFS and season-long fantasy for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I don't envision Milton coming off Maxey coming off the bench long term. And there's a good article from one of the Philly reporters, beat writers, of just the effect and the message that sends of bringing Maxey off the bench. He's too good of a player to be coming off the bench. So I think this Maxey off the benching is just like initially an excuse because his minutes are limited, but once he's full, I fully expect Maxey to be in that starting lineup one way or the other, whether it's Melton or Tucker, heading to the bench.
100% on everything you guys said. One thing to add too, like what a matchup to bring him off the bench. Like not only you have the Zion Tucker thing, you got 2 ultra usage players in CJ McCollum and Zion. Put Melton on CJ. Yeah, and it just makes way too much sense to me. So I honestly would be pretty surprised if Shake started over Melton.
You mean if
But
Tyrese started
they put
over Melton?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
My bad. But I mean, Tobias is taking on some big matchups too, so they might be comfortable with him there. But
What
my
do you
point
guys
is,
think?
I think Melton's staying in there.
What do you guys think a minutes expectation for Tyrese is tonight?
I'd probably say 28.
I would probably go lower. I'd be probably closer to 26, 27.
Yeah. One thing to add too.
They just have enough depth, like I said, which where he doesn't have to be pushed a lot initially. But
Doc's so clueless, and he was like 2 weeks ago. It felt like he was like months away. Like he was just like doing jumping and not taking full contact. They've ramped him up pretty quick here.
Yeah. And remember, I want to bring up like with the Wendell example from last Friday, right? I was saying like I wouldn't surprise me if he just took the 16 Admiral Schofield minutes off that bench. He played like 18 minutes, right? With these guys coming off long absences, and especially when you have depth and a starting lineup that's rolling, that's playing well, there just isn't that much urgency to push it if you don't have to, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm probably a little bit more conservative in my projection with Maxey initially.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm feeling pretty similarly there as well. I just think Melton's been too good, and they need to find the mins for him. The question will be, the other thing is they've been playing George Niang, the handsome one, as a bunch of late as well. So like, if all these minutes are like on a string, once you introduce Maxey back in, they could be from Shake, they could be from George, they could be from PJ Tucker.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that this isn't the spot where PJ Tucker is going to get scaled back. So that adds the fact for even more that we're probably not going to see as much of the Melton, Maxey, Tobias combination, or Maxey, Melton, James Harden combination as you would in like another matchup, where PJ Tucker's less.
Should actually add too on the Tucker thing. Dead hand and had a stinger the last game, so he is. He's getting Zion, the running back. He's going like full linebacker here. He's going to like Bobby Wagner it and play football with all these bumps and bruises and hit the cold tub after the game.
Yeah, he should be allowed to wear pads out there. I think it's only fair. All right, other probable tags: Dante DiVincenzo, Draymond Green. Still no JaMychal Green there for Golden State. I don't have any concerns here. Justin, do you?
No, not too much.
Yeah. And then
DiVincenzo should be pretty good. He's been playing a ton. He's been playing a pretty big role. He actually out ball handled. I think him and ball he like cut down Poole's ball handling hard. Poole's ball handling has been really low, like shockingly low. So I'm curious to see if it's kind of, you would never think Dante DiVincenzo is affecting Jordan Poole's assist ceiling and ball handling ceiling. He has like significantly.
I think some of that, especially in the last game, due to no Clay and just the kind of using Jordan in more of the Clay role of coming off screens and like in facilitating offense, and then Dante facilitating it. I think when Clay's there, it'll be a little bit more split, is my guess, and we'll have Clay back tonight. The last situation I want to tackle is Milwaukee. No Jrue Holiday, no Chris Middleton, and George Hill listed doubtful now. We spent an inordinate amount of time this morning talking through different lineup combinations, because you look through all the different games and there's always somebody missing. And so it's really hard to kind of pinpoint. Earlier in the season, Pat Connaughton wasn't available. Now he is available. So Beauchamp was playing a little bit more earlier in the season. You've got games where Jrue missed, but Giannis played. You've got games where Jrue missed and Giannis missed, that Javon Carter and these guys played a ton. So we think you're going to see the same starting lineup from last game, right? It's the same thing, but George Hill played 28 minutes off the bench, 23 of those in regulation, played the full 5 in overtime. We saw Wes Matthews minutes tick way up, I think, because of the matchup with DeRozan and Levine. The matchup tonight against Minnesota, I don't know if Anthony Edwards fits that bill. He played 10 minutes in the previous game against Minnesota. So you've got a lot of minutes to disperse here from George Hill, and we've been trying to figure out where they'd go all morning. Justin, would love your take on where those minutes from George Hill go tonight.
I'm having the same challenge, I'll say. And I think Mike had messaged me earlier, and I still don't have an exact answer. I think I'm willing to be a little bit more aggressive on Javon's minutes. I think he gets up there full with the other stars just because they need his role and his ball handling and stability at that position. They're lacking a lot of depth there with Jrue and George Hill specifically. And you have a lot of like wingy types that can't really fill that roll in and Grayson, maybe a little bit, but like Wes Matthews, Marjon Beauchamp, aren't going to step in. Like Jordan Nwora isn't the type to take on that role and those responsibilities either. So I feel pretty good about being pretty aggressive with Javon, and we've seen him, in the spots where they've been a little thin, he's gotten up there in minutes. So we've seen it before. So I'm going to be a little higher on Javon, I think, and then kind of spread it out evenly among these like other wingy types and kind of hedge a little bit. Where are you guys at just with the minutes distribution?
There's a lot of dissent within the team. There's a lot of mixed opinions. My opinion is, I think Javon's going to get up close to 30, 31 is kind of the range that I'm thinking. I think we have him around 30 now. I think Grayson is going to be around that 30, 31 mark as well. Mm-hmm. I think Connaughton is upper 20s, like mid to upper 20s, like 27, 28. The question for me is, how much of the Wes Matthews thing, and will they use Wes Matthews like they do against other perimeter scorers on Anthony Edwards? If they do, then Wes Matthews minutes probably get into the 20s. If they don't, then there's the opportunity for Beauchamp or Nwora or even AJ Green to pick up some spare minutes there. But they could also, against this team, they could also ramp up Bobby Portis's minutes quite a bit in those matchups against, if Gobert and Naz Reid overlap a decent bit. So we're kind of all over the place. I will note that we took two Javon Carter unders. So the market is expecting Javon Carter to have a bigger role than we are. Part of that is because if you parse out the sample without Drew, his rates look great, but two of those games are without Giannis and Middleton. He went nuts. In the 5 other games, the rates are really, really modest. Mm-hmm. So we're expecting him to play a decent bit, but we took, I think it was under 9.5 points and under, I think it was 13.5 or 14.5 points rebounds, something like that.
So you've seen 4 of his last 5 starts, his usage rate has been like 11% or lower. And we've seen like some starts where his usage rate, like last game, his usage rate 6%. Like, and we've seen that was he went 6% against the Warriors on the 13 too. So like we've seen, I'm more talking about the minutes here, right? Like I think I have his minutes like 31, 32, but that usage is not going to be very pretty, alongside Giannis and Brook Lopez and some of these other guys, Bobby Portis, right? So how I'm looking at this right now, I don't see a ton of overlap between Portis and Brook Lopez. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive on Javon's minutes, get him to like probably 31, 32, and then kind of go hedge life with Wes, probably like lower 20s, and then some Marjon Beauchamp, maybe some Jordan Nwora as well to kind of fill the rest of it out. And Grayson, like you said, gets up there a little bit as well. Yeah,
I think the guys I was just going to say the guys who I feel most confident in outside of Giannis and Brook, and I'll just say outside of those two, are in order in terms of minutes. I think Carter, Grayson, Portis, Connaughton, and then I have no confidence after that. Mm-hmm. In the Connaughton, I'm just at the lowest level of that because his minutes haven't been great. He started last game and only played 21 minutes. Yep. He started the game before against Tatum and Brown and played 30 minutes, but I think that's a Tatum and Brown thing.
And that was also a Boston thing, right? He's like, is he from Boston? So like there was talk that he, that it made a lot of sense. Like Pi Connaughton is definitely like a Boston Celtics player. If you think of one team, you should
fighting Irish pitcher as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
A few things to add. So I was scrolling through all the lineup combos that had no Drew, no Javon, no George Hill. I got down to like 6 minutes, and it was the backcourt of Marjon Beauchamp and Jordan Nwora. This is very foreign territory, which leads me to Dink earmuffs. AJ Green, sticking with the football theme. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Green, he's really their only other point guard that they have on the roster besides Javon. And he's kind of got a similar skill set to George Hill, a little shooter, not a defender. So I wouldn't be like shocked. And I'm for our under's sake, I'm like praying we see some AJ Green tonight.
Do you think he'll score more points than G League hero Jalen Williams did last night?
Not more rebounds though.
Wouldn't it be a show if Gallagher didn't give some love to some DG?
Amazing.
It's
just amazing. It's just wonderful.
All
right. I think we will end on that lovely note. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running in addition to many formats of NFL contests still running for huge prizes. I love these playoff contests. Gauntlet, Mitten, get in them, fill them up. I think they're great. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. And if you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. Also, last day of the holiday sale at Establish the Run. So if you're interested in purchasing premium product on the DFS side, either NFL or NBA, this is the final day of the sale. So you can get 33% off in-season packages, the monthly or weekly pass. It will recur at that discounted price tag throughout the end of the season. You can cancel at any time, should you be interested. Before we sign off, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have supported this show and our content during the course of a fun 2022 calendar year. I wish everybody a happy and healthy new year and start to 2023. I want to thank Justin Fan for all of his time that he gives us so graciously on these Fridays that are filled with injury information, and even pulling him away from that fresh white powder out in Tahoe. Justin, appreciate you and the Underdog Fantasy team.
I didn't know you were a snowboarder fan, by the way.
That's a bit of a stretch of a statement.
Okay.
I try to snowboard. I wouldn't call myself a snowboarder.
Oh, okay, you're not black diamonding it up and.
No, I grew up skiing, so
yeah, I'm a skier too. I can't snowboard. I'm terrible at snowboarding.
In Colorado and Denver, when we go, we're bored, so I try to learn how to board. It's going
so hard,
poorly.
All right, as always. If you are uninterested in supporting us with your hard-earned dollars, we would take your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button. Feed the algorithm. Help us feed our families and feed yourselves with this DFS and props information. Good luck tonight on Friday. Have a great weekend and a happy new year. We'll see you again on Monday. Nom, 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 nom.